Going, gone. There we go. Yo, Beat People Podcast, episode 60. Me and Flux. What's up, Flux?
What's going on, man?
Chilling. Just drinking like a huge helping of Starbucks. Well, it's actually not Starbucks, but it's in the Starbucks cup. So that's what's up.
I think I got the right link here. I'm trying to grab the link so that I can share it around. It doesn't look like it's live on the link that I'm at, but it's the one that popped up, so that's kind of weird.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's weird. It should be the right one though.
Here you go. I got it. Do you have it? It's the one I sent in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
text.
I was waiting for it to go live so that I could mute it as soon as it comes up. But
Okay, cool.
so if we get some feedback, I'll just know that it's going live over there, and then I'll hurry up and mute it. But yeah, man, it's just that weird COVID-19, you know, strange apocalyptic world that we're living in now. Um,
Yeah, I don't know how we got here, but I'm glad I got gear.
yeah, it's funny because you know, my wife is pretty much a homebody. Like she's not the type to go out to clubs or like do really all that that much
Hmm.
stuff. And all three of my kids for the most part tend to stay inside a good bit. They're not out and about all that often. Um, but they're the ones going crazy, and I'm like totally fine. I'm like, yo, honestly, like let me just stay inside as much as possible because I got this.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
I'm
I'm
like,
saying.
yo, the more time that I can spend in here without having to formulate any kind of excuses for being in here, I am a okay with.
That's what's up. It's like, where else we gonna go? You know? Yeah, so my life is about balancing Netflix and chill and studio work. The good thing is that I'm getting some pretty dope sample packs prepped and out the door. So that actually is a cool thing. So and plus I can't sit and watch the news, man. It's only so much of that kind of stuff you could do. Hold on, I wanna show folks this sample pack.
Something strange is going on with the feed, man, because it's not.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not popping up. Because I'm on the YouTube link and I am not seeing it.
Really? Because I clicked on it and it was good.
Really.
Yeah.
Send it to me in the private chat because yeah, I'm not
Okay.
I'm not seeing it. And unless there's like a duplicate stream, which there might be, something, yeah, because this one's not live yet. It's just sitting there. Matter of fact, I'll close out my YouTube and then I'll open up another one. See what happens here.
Yeah. Here you go. Um,
Yeah, it comes up as set reminder, but it's not actually up there. That's weird. Like I can comment in the live chat, but it's not live. That's weird. Let me toss that link that you just sent me in here. Oh, and that's in there. So yeah, there's some kind of weird duplicate thing in my Facebook feed. That's really strange.
really?
Um, Let me
Well,
mute
let's see.
this.
View on Facebook.
There we go. Hmm, that's really odd. Anyway, so I'll grab this link and I'll
Cool.
share it around.
So yeah, we're getting a couple people joining. Yo, bear with us as we kind of get together. We're gonna have some good conversation with y'all and you know, get this going.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about before we really get into the show is emergency preparations and what sort of foods you've stocked your house with. I'm I'm just I'm just curious as to like so when you were like, okay, we got to make a run to the grocery store and be prepared because we might not be able to get back there for a little while. What was like some of the main things that you went and grabbed?
Lots of chicken and fish. Um, ground turkey, and trying to think along the lines of meal prep. So we got a lot of sandwich meat and stuff, so we can have sandwiches and
Well, I know you don't eat red meat. Does no one in your house eat red meat, or is that just you?
oh, they do, but they don't eat it as often if they have to cook it. You know what I mean? If we're eating out, there's burgers and steaks for everybody else, or whatever it might be. Uh, but yeah, my wife probably bought some steaks. That makes me want to throw something on the grill. So that's another thing. You know what I mean? We could throw some stuff on the grill, and there's only so much room in the refrigerator at some point. You know what I mean? Like you could
Hmm.
freeze up a bunch of stuff, but I'm not old school in the fact that, like my grandmother had one of those deep freezers, it looked like a coffin. Just stock
Yeah.
up on everything and throw everything in there. I kind of wish I had one of those right now.
So we used to have. Well, technically, we have one at our old house, but we haven't brought that over to the new house yet. So I was just thinking about it because for the longest time, and people that have been following this show know, for the longest time, my studio was in what is now my cold storage area for my food.
Hmm.
So we're just now kind of setting that pantry back up into being a pantry now that I have my actual studio back. Um, and yeah, I got to get that freezer over, man, because there's only so many bags of chicken wings that I can put in my freezer, man. And like it's
But that's all you eat, though.
yeah, like for the most part, it's been I stocked up on as many bags of chicken wings as I possibly could, and the scary thing is like I feel like I'm just going fast them through them faster because I have them. So I'm like I can't ration. Like I try, and I'm like, all right, so
They're here. I gotta
I'll
go
eat
with these.
13 instead of 18 this time.
uh,
And that's my idea of rationing. Um, what you got up here?
hold on. Oh, it went.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, cool. We could finish up. I'm just gonna talk about this for a sec.
Yeah.
Yo, so I actually had fun with this joint, and I'm gonna pull the drum machine that I use. It's a behemoth. Yo, look how big that joint is.
Vermona
So,
DRM.
yep, the DRM, and this is the MK3. Some people
Mm-hmm.
may be familiar with it. So this one has the triggers on the back, and all these different instruments. What is it? 8 instruments on it, and it's a powerhouse, incredibly powerful analog drum machine. Um, Actually, it's on loan to me from
Travarsi.
Travarsi, and some of y'all may be familiar with Travarsi. She's been on the show a few times. She's spam, and I had linked up with her so we can go through some Force stuff because she just got a Force a little while back, and I told her like, yeah, while I'm over there, I'm gonna sample up that DRM1. So we did that, and we got so deep into what we were doing as far as the Force goes that I didn't get much sampling done. So she was like, yo, take it with you and I'll bring it back, next time or whenever it is. Didn't know we was going to be on lockdown. So this joint just here. So I'll be sampling some more of it and using it. But what I did is something I haven't done before. I created a sample pack with 32 buttons, with 32 pads layout, 32 pad layout. Uh, if you're your MPC user or Force user, it's bank A and B. But what I did is I made 4 layers on each pad. So it's a sample pack of 128 sounds, wave files. And so I ran this analog drum machine through a few pedals and kind of created some real cool sounds. And this pack has like a lot of diversity, I think. So that's the idea. The artwork is kind of layers, right? So if you peel back the layers, you get that drum machine back there. But what it does is it goes through, it cycles through each of the layers as you play the beat. So it kind of gives you a little bit of variance. Kind of like when you think of a drummer's playing and he's hitting different parts of the drum every time. So you may hear nuances that you wouldn't really hear if it's just static on and off. So I did that like this, and it's actually a pretty cool pack. It's available on Beat People right now for 19.99. It's volume one. And then so I got this other thing. I like this. I like this one so much that I'm probably going to do another sample pack of the DRM one, just kind of vanilla, nothing special, just straight up vanilla of how the thing actually sounds, rather than processing through anything. And then I'm gonna do one that's a layers part two, volume two, where it's gonna be digital drums, and I'm gonna use a couple of digital drum machines. That should be fun though. So
Yeah, man, I've heard nothing but good things about the Vermona DRM. I think one of the first people that I knew that had it was Mads Lindgren from he works over at Ableton now.
mhm.
And I remember him raving about that thing, and he had been raving about it for a while, and then finally he got one, and I was like, yeah, I'm still jealous. So one of these days, I feel like that's one of the few drum machines on my list of drum machines that I still really kind of want. So I'm glad to see that you got on with it and
Yeah, it's
created
pretty
something dope
dope.
with it for people to use. Because from what I hear, it's really flexible too. So for a fixed architecture drum machine like that, it's supposed to be pretty flexible.
It is. It's real flexible, man. And I gotta say, I mean, I've heard a lot of analog drum machines and drum modules, and there's a few that I really like. Like I think WMD does an incredible job with their drum modules. And I probably obviously I haven't heard every single drum module, but in terms of this drum machine, this joint has a really cool sound. Um, as a matter of fact, when I was messing with it, my daughter came in. I was just making some sort of demo drum patterns, and she was like, "Hey, that reminds me of Britney Spears' Slave." And she played it, and I was like, "Oh, it does kind of have some of those sounds." I mean, but that was Neptune's back in the day. And then my wife came in. She was like, "Yo, that reminds me of Climax from the '80s." And I was like, "Oh, the meeting in the ladies' room." Like it's just funny. It kind of has this sort of never-ending classic sort of vibe to it. It doesn't really sound old. It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It just has a good sound to it.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
nice and round and kind of warm.
and
Uh,
you can track the MIDI from each knob and everything too, which is pretty dope. That's
yeah.
the other thing is like it's a full on analog drum machine, but with it doesn't have a sequencer in it though, right?
No, it doesn't have a
But
sequencer.
but everything sends MIDI on it, so you can actually you can really sequence that thing a lot deeper than a lot of other gear that's out there. So
Yeah, so you got your MIDI here, you got your stereo outs, and then you got triggers for each instrument. Then you have actual outputs over here
yeah.
for each instrument. So yeah, it's a monstrous machine, and the MIDI out on it, yeah, everything is kind of configurable and sequenceable. So, but it's
It's
huge.
interesting that it doesn't really have the same aesthetic look as the other Vermona stuff. Like I've got a bunch of the Vermona Eurorack modules, and if you look at like their what is it, the 14, their synth,
Yep,
like that stuff is all
kind of vintagey looking, right?
well, it's also like really high end build quality. Like
Yeah, it
their
truly
stuff is
is. I can
built
agree with that.
so nicely. Like for instance, I really like the sound of the MFB stuff, but
Hmm.
I feel the exact opposite about their build quality. Like if you've ever felt like the Tansbar, like it doesn't feel like it's built like it's very like kind of empty and hollow feeling and that sort of thing. Whereas the Vermona stuff all feels like you could shoot it and it'd be fine.
This is true. They got quite a few other like just instruments in general, but I'm interested now to hear everything. Like, that's the way it is. All it takes is one joint to make you curious, and then you want to check out all of the stuff that they make. And they seem to make some really cool stuff.
So, you want to talk a little bit about um, my current conundrum of gear sales?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to throw this up on the screen. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah, that
keyboard
thing
you
is
mentioned.
gorgeous, man.
It really is,
I
and you
almost
can
bought
tell it
one
has a
really
different look.
recently.
Yep. All right, cool. Yeah, let's jump into that, man. Like, okay, so there's a lot of talk going on, especially within the crew, about the force.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna say a few things because I don't know. Like for one, I don't know what all is official and whatnot, and I certainly don't want to trip on any kind of NDAs or anything. I'm fortunately not under any, but I would assume that you might be. So
Yep,
I
I
don't
am.
want to do that. But there was a leak online that showed a picture of what appears to be a live MK2, which, from everything that I've seen, it seems to be the same internals as the live. So no processor upgrade, no RAM upgrade, none of that stuff. But what it does add is CV, a internal speaker, which I've seen a lot of people kind of deriding that, but I like stuff with speakers in it just because I like to sit on the couch and annoy my wife. But and a wrist rest, which I thought the wrist rest is kind of an odd choice on that thing. That's on something that's meant to be so portable.
Hmm.
But the main thing for me was the CV. So it has the same CV included as what's on the Force and what's on the MPC one, and similar to the X, except the X it's not stereo jacks, right? That is the X individual jacks.
It's individual jacks on the X. There's 8 of them
Okay, yeah. So this just it's the same amount of outs as the X, except they put them on stereo jacks
on the
so
MPC
that you
one.
you
Yeah,
need to have a splitter cable,
yeah.
which is really not a big deal. So for me, someone who uses a lot of modular gear, I'm like, oh, well, the only things that I personally wanted out of a live that it didn't have is it would have been cool to have the CV. Wasn't really a deal breaker because I have a lot of MIDI to CV modules and that sort of thing. But there are certain things that the MPC, you know, can do now, and I hope it goes deeper in the future as far as CV is concerned. But there's certain things like clocking. I imagine would be easier if I had the CV, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So there was that, and the other thing that I really wish the live had was scribble strips for the Q-Link knobs. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I'm not using my live a ton right now. Like I use it here and there, but I don't use it a lot. I primarily use it to make expansions and that kind of thing, and do a little bit of sampling here and there. But I've got Machine, I've got older MPC, I've got Ableton Live with Push. I've got all these other methods of working in that way. I could sell mine now, and then eventually, when the new one comes out, I can get that, and we'll see how I like it. The It looks like it's not going to be out for a little while. At least from everything that I've seen, it looks like maybe not until like end of summer. And with the COVID-19 situation and the way it might affect the economy, who knows? That might even be even longer than that. It might take a good long while for it to come out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
But the
surprised
point
if this
being is
whole
that
thing
it
is
got me
delays
thinking.
everything.
It got me thinking about the fact that I'm not using my live all that much in relation to my other gear. But I've been really curious about the Force.
Hmm.
And the more I started looking at the Force, I was like, well, the Force has the CV that I wanted. It's essentially an MPC inside of it. It might work slightly different, but it's extremely similar to the MPC. Um, and it's got the scribble strips for the
Hmm.
knobs. So those were the like key factors. The battery is nice to have, but yeah. So I think that's what I'm doing right now is I'm going to sell my live and cop a Force because I'm just curious about that workflow. I want to see if that workflow interests me at all. Um, and I've been watching what you're doing on the Force as well, and you seem to be getting along with it pretty well.
Yeah,
And I've noticed that you're using your Force now and not your MPCX.
yeah.
So
What who'd have thought?
yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're not using your MPCX comparatively to the Force at the moment?
I think at the core of it, yo, it comes down to it's just quick. Like it's quick for me to capture audio and keep it moving. Um, Joe actually has a really dope workaround on the MPC. So the thing is, I think Joe and I use the looper on the MPCX very similarly, where I'll sequence stuff with MIDI, and then from there I'll drop it to a pad, but then I have to, you know, uh, throw it into the sequence. at one, right? Joe figured out a template where as soon as he drops it to the pad, it's automatically in the sequence, right? He has a program set up that'll kind of do that. But you know what I just found? It just seemed like it was more steps to do that kind of stuff. Whereas so here's the thing. For all intents and purposes, most of the stuff on the Force is a lot like it's pretty much like the MPC line, right? So you got the same sort of program stuff, and it has a very familiar sort of feel inside the menus and windows and stuff. Same plugins, same effects, and all that stuff. But then it just has this clip launcher layout that I think makes it easier. One, I can capture audio to clips much easier and much quicker, and keep on moving through the process of composing. Without extra steps. And I think more than that even. So it's the quickness, but more than that even is I've been figuring out or trying to figure out for the last couple of years, like how would I want to perform out when I start performing these beats out, and how dynamic could they be if I'm just going through sequences. And I got good at performing with mute groups and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, it seemed more comfortable when I got the Force to just be able to fly clips in and out to launch scenes. And then two, on top of that, with the way I work with a little skiff like this. Uh, oh, well, it's all tied down. Hold on, I'm gonna open this up. So the way I work with a little bitty skiff like this, it makes it so much easier to just kind of combine pre-existing sort of mod bap or hip hop sequences with something that's more improvisational like this. So I'm actually doing Eurorack stuff on the fly with sequences as well, and then I'm also doing live arrangements, and it's just so much easier because you literally have with a scene and with clip launcher, you literally have everything laid out right in front of you with this 64 pad layout. So I don't know. I think while I didn't necessarily get along with Push, I got along a lot better with the Force because it just seemed to make things quick and easy for me. And it pushed my ass out the door to perform live. You know what I mean? It just kind of it did those two things for me. The quickness and the performing live is kind of unparalleled.
Yeah, one of the main things that I've been looking at. So I like to do a lot of finger drumming and live performance aspects of triggering things off and that sort of thing, and dynamically tapping things in. So one of the things that had kind of worried me was how the pads were, and then I saw a video today where somebody had like an MPD plugged directly USB right into it and was doing their finger drumming stuff on the MPD, with the Force, all standalone. So that kind of like that got me excited right there because I was like, oh, okay, well, I can use something like an MPD or something to that sort of mentality, which is nice because I like 16 pad layout for finger drumming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the other thing that I was thinking about with that is that crossfader, and being able to do things like crossfade from one beat to another and one pattern to another. Now, I don't think you can load like separate projects up and then crossfade between them at this point yet, but I think you can crossfade between scenes,
Tracks.
right?
You can
Like
crossfade
tracks.
between tracks. Um, and you can crossfade between other sort of parameters and stuff. You can map stuff to it and do different stuff. So it's a lot of cool stuff like that. Um, but yeah, like all of that is cool. But I'm interested about the when you say the 16 pad layout, like they hold on, let me throw this up there. So when you say the 16 pad layout, I mean, you could have the 16 pad layout here if I don't tear my stuff up trying to lift it up, right? That's basically bank A. Um,
Well, yeah, but this is more like specifically for
Finger
like if you
drumming.
want a finger drum on it, then you're not limited to the smaller pad, and you're hopefully like depending on how the MPD works. I haven't used the newer MPDs, but hopefully the dynamic sensitivity of them is really nice as well. Which my experience, Push 2 is not terrible. but it's also definitely not the best compared to some of the other. Like my favorite's still Machine MK2 as far as dynamic response when you're finger drumming. Um, but and MPC Live is no slouch either. Honestly, like the pads on it are really good. So
I'd be
the
interested to hear from you what you think about these pads because I think they're more sensitive, and even actually it says it on the Akai site that they're more sensitive than the average MPC
matter of
pads.
fact,
But the difference is they're smaller. But I'd be interested to see. I think you'll obviously be aware that they're smaller, but I don't think it'll be any kind of hindrance. You may find that, like, yo, this is just fine. It's totally nowhere near some of these other machines with pads on them that we've criticized before, like the Rhythm. Um, you know what I'm saying? It's just some of that stuff is just crazy, even with the Rhythm MK2 being better than it used to be. Uh,
so just I'm gonna. This is like super self plug. I really don't care.
mhm.
I'm gonna screen share this real quick. So just to give guys an idea, like if you're in the market, boom, there's my MPC Live up on Reverb right now.
Word.
And I priced mine. I think mine's like the cheapest one up on Reverb, which is funny because like I have the box and everything. Like it's yeah, and it still has the screen on it and everything. Like it's primarily been used for creating expansions. The other thing about that is that and really I'm just trying to sell it so I can get a force like, which are going for pretty close to the same price. So if anybody wants to trade straight up for a force, I'll do that too. But anyway, the thing is about like yeah, the finger drumming aspect of it on push, you have to set it up like it's kind of a like yeah, you got to set it up, but you can set it up to where all 64 pads are drum pads, right? But generally speaking, when you just if you don't have that template laid out, it's that square 16 right there.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I'm like, yeah, I want all my pads to be drum pads like that, so I can just go to town on it when I'm finger drumming. But push two, for example, a great way to check the sensitivity between something like push two versus something like machine or MPC live. If you take a drumstick, right, and you let the drumstick, bounce off of it and just kind of flam on it, you won't get those triggers. Those ghost notes won't happen on a push two, but they will happen on a live and on machine. All right. When I'm finger drumming, uh, I do a lot of that sort of thing with my fingers, like where I'll tap it and I'll get these kind of double triggers and whatnot. Um, so if the Force can't do that, hopefully one of the MIDI controllers that I can plug into it will be able to do that. Sounds like you're. Are you getting them? Are they triggering? I can't tell if I'm hearing your stick or if I'm hearing the samples.
Yeah, you probably hearing a little bit of both, but it's triggering. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to do. I should have routed this a little differently so we could have
Well,
heard.
either way.
Yeah,
So
it's
so you're
triggering.
saying that on like the third and fourth bounce, it's still triggering the sample.
Yep.
Okay, because yeah, that's that's one of the things for me that when I'm finger drumming, like I like to do a lot of very light touch notes.
Hmm.
And by the way, so Jordan Thorne is saying that he's giving away free 808 samples today. I want to explain why we have that pinned up here. So Jordan Thorne is not just some buster on the internet who's like talking about, you know, stolen 808s or anything like that. Like he's actually a trustworthy source. So that's Bullyfinger. And I'd recommend you check him out. You can check him out on Splice and on his on bullyfinger.com on his website. He actually does create sounds and he's not stealing people's sounds and that sort of thing. So um, I'm just saying that because the way it's worded on there, if it was just about anybody else, you would think, oh, really? Like,
Yeah,
really?
and actually, to tell you the truth, not only is he a trustworthy source, but he's actually an advocate for people who create dope sounds and an advocate, or probably
He's
one
an
of the
asshole.
loudest.
He's an
Yeah, he's
asshole.
an asshole, but he's probably one of the loudest voices against pirating sounds that people take time to create themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, and the
Yeah.
other thing is, he just makes real dope sounds. So,
Some
You
of them are pretty good.
lock down like the rest of us. Go ahead and check out Bullyfinger at Bullyfinger on
He's
Instagram.
also really good at doing like hand percussion porn. Like he just takes pictures of all his hand percussion stuff laid
Yeah,
across
you
the
should
carpet.
follow him. It's pretty dope.
So yeah, he likes to show the gear that he's sampling, which I encourage more sound designers to do that kind of stuff because a lot of y'all are suspect. You
Hmm.
know, putting out a lot of sample packs and we don't see a touch of like actual acoustic gear or
A touch of
you know a
anything
touch of
for that
anything
matter.
that you actually claim you're putting out yourself. So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but as far as the force is concerned, I'm just interested in giving it a shot. I actually really like the MPC Live. Like I
Yeah.
really like it. So me selling it, like you know me, I don't sell pretty much anything. My whole mindset is like, I'm probably gonna buy another one. Like, but I want to try out this different workflow and see if it works for me. But I really like the MPC Live, so I'm a little bit worried about selling it. But at the same time, it's like I got this bug in my head where I'm like, okay, I got I just got to give myself a chance at trying this other workflow and see how I like it. Plus, it'll be interesting to create some expansions using that format, which apparently they should be cross compatible.
They are.
NPC expansions and Force expansions are cross compatible, so I'll still
Yeah,
be able to do that.
it's
But it's
basically the same. You know what I mean? It's not even like cross compatible. It's just the same thing.
mhm.
Like the
Well,
same.
you were showing how you had your samples laid out all the way across, like 8 all the way across.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
the NPC is not going to do that though, right?
Yeah, that's true. But you know the way the 64 pad layout on the Force is basically a quadrants.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
So it would
you're
be the next
literally
bank
looking at,
over.
yeah, that's it.
Gotcha.
It's like from the bottom A B, then back over to the top C D. Those are the
Yeah,
banks. Bank
and
A.
that's how I would want it to be. Like
Yeah.
honestly, that I like that. So I'm interested in it. I hope they do some interesting things with that crossfader because like when I look at the crossfader, I start thinking of things like, man, I want to be able to like have like a primary beat and a secondary beat and like crossfade in between them, not just scenes or tracks or
Yeah,
whatever, but
yeah.
I
I
want to be
think
able
that
to
would be
go
dope.
between like I want to have two projects and be able to load them up as long as they fit in the RAM and
Hmm.
just be able to boom boom, you know, so if I'm doing a live set, I can do that. Cuz
Man,
that
that
was
would be
always
real dope. That would take my live performances to a whole other place.
yeah,
Because
that was
physically,
always hard for me with Machine and with NPC and all. Like whenever I would perform out live like that, I would have to bring two, you
yeah.
know, and
Mhm.
I'd be running double instances and that sort of thing. Which running two instances of Machine on your computer was kind of a pain, and it wasn't super seamless. But I mean, I made it work, but I didn't love the implementation of it.
You know
So
what? I liked the idea initially when I was going to start performing last year. I liked the idea of performing with the X and the Force. And as I started thinking about that, although it might look dope and might come off dope, yo, who wants to carry all that stuff around, man? I don't carry all that stuff around. As it is, when I go out, I got a Eurorack joint with me, my 404 and the Force, and that's my setup. But that's a lot of stuff. So imagine if I had another machine, but it would be really dope. What I had to do was change the way I approach creating projects on the Force, not just about a couple beats and be done. Like I literally have gotten into the mindset when I'm on a project on the Force, I'm making about 10 tracks minimum on that one project and try to vary it enough that I can perform that project in a show with my Eurorack and kind of create a whole sort of mod that show. But it would be real dope, like you said, if you could have two projects loaded up in RAM or even on the card and they could stream that. That would be real dope where you can flip back and forth. Yep. Love that idea.
yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that out. Last night I did a tribute stream to my buddy Gary Nolan, who passed away on Sunday.
Condolences.
And thank you. So what I was doing is I was loading beats up that we had all kind of done together and that our crew had done back in the day on the MPC, and yeah, I kind of had to do that very reminiscent to a lot of the old school stuff that we used to do, which, you know, back when we used to do shows, it was bring a turntable and bring your MPC. And while the MPC was slowly loading, which the 2000 XL, like yeah,
Yeah,
some of those beats, man, they would take a few minutes, man.
they do.
They take 5 minutes to load a beat. And yeah,
That's
you got
painful.
to play a
Jeez.
track, and then you got to be loading and all. But it'd be really nice if you could just have two things up inside of your force at once, and zoom, zoom, zoom. Plus, you could do some really. I can think of like so many. I'd like to see some of the like the octatrack functionality of the crossfader in there as well. You
Yeah,
know.
that would be dope. That would be dope because I see a few people getting busy with the crossfade on the Octatrack. Shiro being one of them. I mean, he has his performance effects and everything strapped to that crossfader on the Octatrack, and he's making magic with them joints. It's real dope the way he's performing with it. I'd love to be able to do that kind of stuff. Imagine if the XY effects would map to the crossfader on the Force or stuff like that. That's just crazy. It's real dope.
I'll say another thing that I thought was kind of weird, and this goes back to like just okay. Um, I don't really like it when people point out what people say on the internet because, man, it's like okay, you can find anything on the internet. You can find the most impressively stupid people on the internet, but this was something that like I saw for a while, and it was just like all over the place, and I didn't really see much point to it, but the Force, I think when it first came out, it was like $1,300, and then it dropped down to 1,000. And
Mhm.
people were all speculating, "Oh, it's not selling well, so they're gonna drop it. They're gonna drop it." And I'm like, it's still not old, and it basically runs on the same platform as the MPC. I don't see them dropping support for that anytime soon.
I don't either,
Um,
bro.
like that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I did see so I joined the Force Facebook group because I'm trying to learn about it before I get one, and I did see that they had Akai had let go of like one of their main Force users, and I don't know what you would call him. I guess he was a product specialist and then some,
Yeah.
but Nick, is it, how do you pronounce his last name? You
I
know?
can't even remember how to pronounce his last name, but Nick,
Trickus
he's the
or
dude. He's the dude that's been in all of the sort of Force videos for all the updates and
he, yeah, and he was in the
Force
video
came
when
out.
when we went to Nam.
Yeah,
Ali was like yelling at him.
yeah, he was the guy Ali was yelling at.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. And
But
for those that saw the initial videos this time last year when the Force dropped, say February, March last year, he was the guy that was introducing it all over the place to all of whether it was Sweetwater or Guitar Center, or all the different places. He was the guy demoing it. Um, so yeah,
and I think that that is legitimately more just like a sign of like the current crisis that we're in, you know, and not so much like dropping support of Force or anything like that. But you know, I'm interested to check it out. I really do hope that it gets fleshed out more because I see it more as like a, it's got potential, but it's not quite where I think it could be at. That would
mhm.
be you know, that could be something. It could be really cool. Like if they really implement a lot of those features that we're talking about now. Like if that stuff could happen, then I feel like it would be, you know, a really interesting device for a lot of different producers because you see things like Octatrack primarily getting, you know, there's a few hip hop guys using Octatrack, but primarily it's used in the electronic music, in like
True.
dance scene and that sort of thing. Um, you do see people like smashing up like Amen breaks and stuff on it, but it's usually done at like crazy high BPMs and all that sort of thing. I feel like Akai reaches a slightly different market. Like their advertising network and the people that they appeal to tends to be a little bit different. So it could be interesting to see these sorts of workflows kind of combine with the more Akai, you know, ordinary workflow, um, and see how the hip hop crowd adopts to it, you know, and see how other producers start using those same sorts of techniques. You see it with the popularity of the 404,
Mhm.
what's really interesting about that is like that was always kind of like this undercurrent for many years. Like I can remember back when like Madlib first came out, and I don't mean like Alcoholics Days came out, but I mean like when like Quasimodo first dropped and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It was like, oh, like he's using the 303 and like, you know, yeah, he's using a SP 303, this, that, and the third. And like, yeah, there was 1200 going on as well. But like people were aware of it back then, and it was kind of like this little subculture inside of the hip hop producers that were like, oh well, there's also this little box, and I knew that a bunch of my friends were rocking SP 808 and SP 808 EX,
Yep.
which are goofy boxes, like they have like a multi-track recorder built into them. Um, and there was like the what was it, the Yamaha sampler, and a few other like weird ones. The what was the dance music one, the MC 909.
Yeah. MC
So there was like the
909.
MC 909, but for the most part, like by and large, the hip hop producers were all on like three main pieces of gear, and that was like the SP 1200, the MPCs, regardless of which model, and the ASR, and it was like that was it,
Mm.
until like FL Studio came on the
Yeah.
market,
Then you
and
start to see
then
more
that
stuff with
that
controllers.
got a big, yeah. But I mean, for the most part, for the longest time, the vast, vast majority of everybody that I knew was you either had an ASR, an MPC, or SP, you
Yeah.
know? And then there was like this subculture of people who, and most of the people who had like an SP 404 or 303 at the time, or 808, most of those people had something else also. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like most of them didn't have just the one.
Right.
It was like, oh yeah, I have this, but I use it with my. Most of those people were DJs, and they had it with the turntables.
Right. Right.
But those techniques that were used with that, it was, you could instantly tell like, okay, this person's not on an MPC, because it didn't sound like an MPC beat. It
It
had it
totally
had
does not sound like an MPC. The 404 has a sound of its own even before you use the effects.
And yeah, and I'm not even just talking about like the sound of the circuitry. I'm talking about the sound as far as like how you chop samples and
So
how you arranged.
yeah,
Like very, very different.
very, very. And so here's the thing that I think about the Force, and I don't know. What I experienced with the 5000 when I had the 5000 was, the 5000 took shots. Man, the 5000 took shots. I mean, it was a weird time in drum machine land. Machine ruled all. MV 8800s had just come out and went out of production at the same damn time. It seemed like, and the 5000 dropped, and then piece the Akai was in a weird space where Native Instruments had kind of taken all of its users, and we were still standing around with stuff like 2500s, and some of us still had 2000s, 2000 XLs. A lot of 1000s were out there. Then the 5000 dropped, and the first OS was super lacking, and they had to update the OS. The OS 2.0 was much better, and it was stable, and that's, well, at least pretty stable. That's when I got the MPC 5000 for a Christmas present from my wife, and that joint was dope to me. It had a synth built in. You could do audio tracks, and there were some things that were a little weird, but I don't know. It worked out for me. But guess what happened? As soon as they stopped making that joint and it was just all available aftermarket, all of a sudden everybody had a MPC 5000.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know. For me, I don't think that Akai is in a place where they're gonna stop production or stop, developing the force. And I don't have any extra information about that. That's my gut feeling. I don't think that they're gonna. This thing is just starting to come alive, right? But I also think, because it's such a dope standalone machine, if they stopped tomorrow, this thing will still be the stuff of legend as time goes on. I think in the years to come, people are gonna look at the force like, yo, I don't know if we was ready. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you, I still feel like a lot of this stuff is all kind of just a continuation of what the MV 8000 was doing, and also to some extent, hate on it as much as you want. To some extent, the Beat Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those two products were really pioneers, and were doing things that a lot of us were really wishing would get done, and but they were on platforms that a lot of people just weren't willing to jump to, and um, there was also, I can remember, man, I remember it was like it was yesterday, because I remember being in a position where I felt like I had taken the 2000 XL as far as I could go with it, and like I wanted, there were things that I wanted to do that it just wasn't able to do, and I was looking hard at like what my next choice was going to be. And I was looking at the 8,000, which I don't even know if the 8,800 had dropped yet. And I was waiting for the 5,000 to drop because I knew that they were coming with something as an answer, which we've done a whole show talking about the 5,000 slash MPC 3,500.
Yep.
But when that dropped, I was disappointed in what it was. I was like, this isn't really what I was trying to see. And I really wanted the 8,000, but then Machine came out and Machine did not do everything that it needed to do. But my mindset was like, yeah, but it's an open computer platform. They can add everything in, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I jumped to that. But really, in hardware form,
Hmm.
everybody's still kind of chasing what the 8,000 did, like having multi-track
Yep.
recording built in,
Yep.
having a synthesizer built
Built
in,
in. Yep.
having the ability to share presets built in,
Mhm.
being able to do real-time time stretching built in and track tempo to it. Like,
And the fact that at that point they were, it wasn't like they had a software companion for it, but
yeah,
you could plug in a
they had the
monitor and a
screen.
keyboard or
Yeah,
a monitor and a mouse. You could throw a screen on it so that you could have that something that's more familiar to the way you're working. You know what I mean? Or something that just kind of gives you a lot more feedback. Um, I think that's pretty interesting. You hit a good point. The 8,000 or the 8,800, whichever one, and the beat thing. Like, I wonder, do people notice the similarities? And I'm not even saying that, similarities like, yo, they took this from that. I'm saying, like, if you look at the beat thing, there were things that hadn't been done before that is commonplace now.
yeah. And the beat thing, if you recall, like was really a response to the woes that were going on with Akai at the time, because the whole reason why that thing really happened was because the 1000 was in such a bad place, in such a bad position because of the whole JJOS thing, which
Yeah.
they Akai had lost its developer. Akai wasn't able to really properly develop the firmware further without that guy, and they were stuck. So a lot of people wanted the 1000 to do all these other things, myself included, because like I had a bunch of friends with the 1000. I moved from the 2000 XL over to a 1000, and I was like, oh, I can't work with this because you didn't even have envelopes per pad, like per sample on it. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And this is before JJOS came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. This was kind of like the response, and people were like, "Man, I really wish this thing was battery powered." And there were people trying to battery power it, and
Mhm.
and when the Beat thing made a lot of missteps as far as how they went about their business and everything. But man, that actual device, like the hardware of it and what it was and everything, was so forward thinking. Had like the ASRX style pad layout, had the mod wheel on it and everything.
Yep. Yep.
There was some things that they were doing that was just so far ahead of what other people were thinking about, and it had the software component,
Hmm.
which I don't know if you remember, but they actually had a VST, and
Yep.
you could pair the two together, and and
That was next level, and they had this whole ecosystem of sample packs.
yeah, I did one.
Yeah, see what I'm
I did an
saying?
official expansion for that thing.
So, like, when you think about that with the battery and all, man, I mean, that was next level. And was it a crossfader or nah? What was it? You
Well,
may,
they had a knob on there, and then they also had the mod stuff on there, but
yeah. So when you think about that, and then you go and you think about what we have today in the market, that stuff is like commonplace now. Like, it's actually, as a matter of fact, I tell people all the time. People are like, "Yo, why doesn't the MPC one have a battery?" And I'm like, "But yo, the MPC Live is the first MPC to ever have anything like that. So if you think about it, not having a battery is actually commonplace for an MPC. It's just that
yeah.
MPC Live did something that was, break
And I
bound.
think the one is really geared for something way different.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
in in a way similar to what the 1000 was geared at, which is a very low entry price, and it's portable and it's cheap. So yeah, I still think the one is a really dope product.
Oh,
I
without a
think
doubt.
it's smart. And it comes in at a price for a standalone that costs what Native Instruments controller costs.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's crazy right there. But
I was telling my brother-in-law about the one, just because, um, he's into making beats, and it's a standalone thing you don't need a computer for at that price point. You know what I'm saying? So if you think about, you get FL Studio and say the
There's no reason to knock the one, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
there's
Like
no reason not to.
I saw some people saying ridiculous things like, oh, it doesn't have the SSD drive, blah blah blah. Man, you don't need the SSD drive. You throw a USB stick into that thing and you're fine. Like, you don't need a hard drive in that thing. Period. Like,
Yep.
yeah. So I don't know. I think that thing's actually really dope, and kind of makes me consider picking up one of those. Like after I get a force, like after I get rid of my live, get a force, I might get the one instead of another MPC live, or I might get another MPC live because I do like having the battery. I'm that kind of quirky guy who likes to just sit out on the front yard and make beats, and really at this point not even so much making beats but using that time to arrange samples, like chop break beats up and slice things and arrange my groups, like while I'm supposed to be paying attention to my family.
And while you're supposed to be paying attention. Well, yo, I'll tell you this. I'm actually let me I don't know if you could hear that. I can't, but let me
I don't
do.
hear nothing.
Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna show you something.
You don't know what you're doing.
There. Okay, hold on. Now I'm gonna share this so you can see this, because I thought this was a dope video, and I can't remember who shared it with me. Um, and I'm not familiar with the guy's channel that has this here, but I thought it was really dope. So
What does that say? MPC1 battery review lasts 10 hours continuously.
yeah, so
Huh.
MPC1 battery review lasts 10 hours continuously. So he's gonna hold this up. That's how long
Okay.
he's
Yeah, I
been
think I
running
saw
it.
it. Looked like he had it like velcroed or something to the side of it.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's Velcro. Like in a second, you're gonna see him. You're gonna shake the crap out of it because
Okay.
it doesn't come loose. If it was Velcro, it wouldn't be like that. Now, I mean, it's a little awkward the way
I
it's.
don't know. I've got industrial Velcro that I use in my studio, and you could shake the crap out of anything with that stuff on, and it doesn't go anywhere.
So
But
I'll tell you,
regardless,
you and I were talking earlier today about. Okay, so there it is. I want to pause right there so you can kind of get a look at it.
okay.
Um,
It looks like he has it stuck on there with something.
yeah, it looks like he got stuck on there with something, and I
Okay.
think this turns the MPC one into something really cool like that, right? Like, think about this. I mean, it's a dope size. If you could get around the idea that it has the little bump on the side of it as the battery, but I can't trip, That I think this is pretty dope. And he has the link to. Here, I'll put the link to
He's
it.
got the link to the battery and all. So I'll say a couple of things about that. One, I personally like the form factor of the MPC one more, because it'll fit in a laptop bag better.
Hmm.
So I like the form factor of it more. The major downside to me about the one, more than anything else, is it has less outputs. I think it only has a stereo out on it,
Yeah,
which isn't a deal breaker because if you have a laptop, you link it to the software and then you track out through the software and you're fine. Like it's not going to actually be an issue for you. Um, like if you're working in a studio fashion, you can still certainly link to a computer and then get full tracking out and exporting stems and all that good stuff. It's not like you can't do that. Um, at the price point, like exactly what he's showing and everything, to me, that's a win-win. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. Think about that. How much is this battery? He had a link to it. The battery is $26, so less than $30 for this
That's really
battery.
cheap for a battery like that, to be
Lithium
honest with you.
ion battery pack, USB chargeable, and yeah, it's probably for some sort of camera or something. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't read the thing, but yeah, when you think about something like that, that's a pretty viable solution. You know what I mean? It turns that into something. I mean, for people that's saying like, "Yo, I like the one, but I wish it had a battery." That's the next best thing.
I'll tell you
Unless
what.
I'm
Can
like
you
trying to hack
do you
it,
have the
figure out
link
how to put
for the battery?
yeah.
Can you throw that in the private chat here, and I'll pull it up real quick, and I'll just look at the specs of it, and I'll tell you if I think it's a proper battery. Because some of that stuff can be. You have to be careful with batteries when you're buying batteries. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
some of that stuff can be really suspect online. I don't trust every battery that you buy.
I
So
can't blame you there.
what has he got? All right, 7.4 volts. I thought it required more than that. I need to see the power spec of the one then, because that's saying 7.4 volts. I thought the one was same power requirements as the live, which I'm guessing not. If he's uh,
Well,
doing it
we'll
with
see.
7.4 volts. Hmm. It says it can go up to 9 volt. It'll do 12 volt. Seeing in some of the comment threads here, people are talking about you can get it to do 12 volt. So yeah, I need to know what the one. Let me look that up real
Power
quick.
supply 19 volts DC.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what he's got going on there.
Yeah, that's a little suspect
I have to watch the video. I
in
have to watch the
itself.
video on that
Yeah. But I
to
mean,
see
there's
what the deal is
probably
with that.
options, right? So I think I like the one ultimately, and I like the idea that you could find some because even if that doesn't work and I don't have it near me, there's other battery packs that will work just fine, even with just a
Hmm.
plug on it. But it's not probably not going to be something you could just mount to the side of it. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, yeah, that's dope. Yo, I want to talk about this pedal just because I probably shouldn't because some things are better left kind of like secret.
What's that?
But I want to talk about this pedal just because I just kind of dig the idea of small boutique guitar pedals that you can use in the studio with other stuff. And this is a pedal I've been checking out for, or been watching for a little
Videotape
while.
echo.
Yeah, yeah. So it's this Dash. I don't know how to say
It
that.
sounds
That's
kind of
the guy.
familiar to me. I feel like I heard about it, but
I've brought it up before in our private chats and like on Marco Polo.
hmm.
So here's the thing. Like one, I love the design that the dude does. So if you look at it, it really looks like an old videotape, and it's so videotape sort of echo tape delay. It's 220 standard, but the deluxe adds like a stereo spread output and where's the thing? Soft switching, echo trails, secondary foot switch, enabling swells of echo repeats. Swell function can be used even in bypass mode. It got a stereo spread output via TRS output jack. That's the deluxe. Otherwise, it's just a typical mono in, mono out sort of echo pedal. But what's dope about it is because the design is pretty dope.
Yeah, but it can do a TRS stereo out too, which is nice because for
Yeah,
that kind of thing, yeah, I would definitely want stereo.
right, right. And so here's kind of what the stuff is. It's an intensity knob, obviously a time knob, echo. The echo mixes the wet and dry signals, so it's a wet dry. Tape quality raises or lowers the bandwidth of the recording. At low settings, each repeat echo becomes more degraded than the last. You get your speed and the other typical
Have
stuff.
you heard it?
I've heard it on guitar and I like what I hear. It sounds it basically is a tape delay that can sound degraded and in a good way though. And I
Yeah.
like it. It's actually pretty dope. One of these days I'm gonna grab this, but
Can
I
you
just
see what the
keep checking out. So,
max delay time on that is?
let's see.
I can't really read it from the
Yeah,
screen that we're
I'll
looking at.
look for it here. Let's see what the specs are. Doesn't say, but here's the 1 point. Setting this at maximum will give approximately 1.5 seconds of delay time.
Okay.
Yeah. Minimum allows you to use the depth and speed controls to dial in the chorus effect. So the other thing about this that I find to be tripped out is that I think this dude has his supply and demand so on point. You know, it's one guy. It's a small kind of boutique pedal guy, and the wait list, the current wait list time is over a year.
No, thank you. I'm sorry. So let me say something about that real quick, man. I'm gonna lay it out there right now. No,
you
no, I've
you so
lost interest at this
immediately.
point because I've been on so many wait lists for different pieces of gear where it takes that long, and no, like I won't do it. Like I won't tie up the
That's
the
hilarious.
money. I won't tie up the mentality. No, there's a lot of other stuff out there that does somewhat similar stuff to that. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and
And
it
that's not
says,
to diss the dude, but
I don't
man,
have a more
if that's
accurate.
your situation,
Please don't email me asking for a more accurate estimate. I mean, and then he says, for right now, there's a waitlist concession. Um, as of March 21st, 2020, I will no longer be taking any waitlist applications. I will continue to make T120s and reach out to those on the wait list, but we'll begin selling units in a first come, first serve manner.
man, look, I would rather you just build up a bunch of stock and release them in batches, you know?
Yeah,
And
there it is. Hey, I got them on the 20th. And if by the first it's sold out, you got to wait for the next batch, right?
yeah, so like I follow there's another like kind of boutique guy, like I follow Dig Dug DIY.
Hmm.
And he makes a lot of like kind of quirky weird stuff.
Is he
But
the one who makes the baby heads?
I don't think he does any of that, but he does like the Lo-Fi Dream
Okay,
and
yeah,
Purple
yeah,
Rain,
yeah.
the little lo-fi compressor and stuff. But yeah, like he his stuff isn't always in stock, but when it is, it's like he makes it in a batch and then he puts it out, and it's like you just got to follow him, and so when it goes out, you grab it.
Hmm.
I just yeah, for me, I'm not with it, man. I'm really not. And there's so many good delay pedals out there now that no offense to that at all. Like there's just so many good things out there.
Hmm. I still want that
The
pedal.
stuff
So
that
I don't
Chase
have to
Bliss
be
is
on a
doing,
situation where, like, if he happens, because I'm on the wait list, because I'm like, hey, that's a dope
I'm
pedal.
sure you are.
Whenever he calls, I might be like, okay, what's the loot looking like? You know what I'm saying? It'll be that then.
There's certain things that I've been on wait lists and had a really great experience with,
Hmm.
like ER301 for example. Like that wait list was fine. It was like it gave
But
you
for
a
like
okay,
six to
well
eight
it's
weeks,
going to be
though.
like 3 months, and then
Yeah,
it ended up being
yeah.
a little bit shorter than that. But he was very up to date with his updates and saying like, okay, look, I've got a batch that's going out at this time, blah blah blah. Um, but yeah, I'm
That's
just not
funny.
I'm
I
not
love
with
the
it.
way you responded, man. I'll probably listen to this podcast just to hear your reaction to that. What's the wait time? 1 year? No, thank you. No.
No, not having it. I will. So I'm going to ask you about another pedal though. You've got that the new auto bit.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me how you've been getting on with that thing?
Yeah, the
This is by
auto.
Maris, right?
Yeah, it's by Maris.
That thing has me like hungry. I kind of want that.
Yeah, yo, this joint is crazy. Hold on, I'm gonna do this right quick so people can really get an idea. So yeah, this is basically the Maris Auto Bit Junior, and it is a bit reduction sort of pedal, but with a filter and kind of filter and bit reduction sequencing and stuttering and glitch repeating and stuff like that. It's an all around really dope pedal. And it actually is partly what I use to help make. It's one of the pedals that I use to help make the new um, layers sample kit that I just threw up there. So layers is actually running through a couple pedals, this being one of them. So taking an analog drum machine through this. And what's a trip is that it has this stutter section that's similar to almost like a 404 sort of beat repeat, but
Okay.
it's more random. And then it has a sequencer there, and then you could combine the stutter section and its multiples by the sequencer, You can play a sequencer at 1x, 2x, 4x, 8x, or infinity.
So it's got like inbuilt patterns.
Yeah,
That's kind of like
it's
the
trip.
scooper. That's like the scooper that Roland did.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you got another knob that's called uh, the sequencer molt. So then you can multiply what the sequencer is doing. And so, yeah, you can flip it from either pitch sequencing or filter sequencing. So you can get like really crazy stuff out of this. And I gotta say, shout out to my man Ricky Tinez. Run into him at all the SoCal Simp Society stuff, and since we're both in Southern California, I run into him at like Perfect Circuit when there's events and stuff. And I happened to be watching one of his videos after we saw each other at Perfect Circuit's what is this thing? Model Cycles event.
Okay.
And I happened to watch his video, and he was messing with the Maris Autobit Junior, and I ordered it immediately. Like, you know what I mean? It was just dope. And what's funny is Bryce was like, "So I'm curious to see why you would order that if you have stuff that has overlap." And I think it does those things a little differently than anything else.
That's the thing about bit crush and sample rate reduction, though. It's like, yeah, you can have stuff that does that already, but it's kind of like filters. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's like they all tend to do them in different ways, and they all kind of have a different vibe about
yeah,
them.
character
Like
and
one
stuff.
of the ones that I use a ton right now is, so this is the syntax error from Alexander. So let's see if I can. I have it plugged in, so I
Yeah,
can't lift it too far. But
dope.
yeah, I use this thing a ton, and this one, like I've got a bunch of other sample rate reducers and whatnot, but this one is crazy weird. Like it does a lot
It
more
is
than
a
just
rag,
that.
right? Yeah.
It does like echoes and it does choruses and it does this weird cube thing and like all this other stuff. But
What do you mean cube thing? What's that?
it's wacky, man. So it's
And
hold
it has USB on the back too, so is that
basically,
USB?
have you ever tried cocaine? So, because I'm about to
It's eight
get
and
you
a half.
hooked. So yeah, I'll let me see if I can't give you an example real quick. Because it's one of those things where again, like some of these effects, the game is to be shown, not to be told.
Yeah, that's true.
you know.
Exactly.
So let me see where I'm at with this. I gotta see what my routing is right now. I think that's going in there.
Oh, you know something else while you're doing that? I'm just
Oh,
gonna tell people out there when y'all buy pedals and stuff, if you're a synth beat maker kind of dude, you're probably not gonna have a pedal board. So I always like to tell people if you're buying pedals, you should go on Amazon and buy these little plastic sort of feet, right? You can get a pack of say 12 or 16 of these for a little bit of nothing, like under $10, maybe $5 or something. Because something like this comes, the bottom was as smooth as the side of it. These
mm-hmm.
were not on there. So I put this on there
Yeah,
and
this one's smooth.
right? And if you're a tabletop sort of dude with synths and drum machines, it's like a lot of people. The pedals are made to be put on pedal boards or on the floor, on carpet, or whatever it is that they're gonna put it on. And it may not be that big of a problem because it's gonna be strapped or something. But if just a pro tip for you guys, get these here feet. Uh,
My
so
so
you
so the reason why I don't use a pedal board is because I'm constantly moving my pedals around. So I don't like to keep everything locked in. But at NAM we saw some really cool pedal boards.
yes.
If you recall. Like there was a bunch. There were like three different ones that we were all like, man, like each one of these is really, really dope.
Yep.
Um so let me just see if I can show you an example of this real quick. Let me see if I'm getting some sound. Hold on. Let me know if this is coming through.
Yep. Well, it was. Oh, you've ruined it. Fluxerator.
Is it coming through now?
Yep. Yep. It is.
Okay, so here we go. So now I'm gonna try to do this. Oh my god, I've got it chained to an analog delay pedal as well. So I'm kind of like, I'm gonna try to hold it up, but my cables are short right here. So let's see if I can do this. So this is basically, I got the analog rhythm is what's playing right now,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'll do is let me put this thing into cube mode.
Mm.
And you can do so like sample rates here.
Mm.
And what's really crazy about this is that every knob movement that you do on this is kind of slewed in a
Okay.
musical way. So, like for instance, I'm going to switch modes here for a second, and this is the ring mod mode, right? And watch what happens when I move something quick, right?
Mm. Mm. It has a like a fade almost. It's like it fades in and out. It's on a weird curve almost too.
And so, hold on. Here's the frequency shift.
Dope.
And then this is the stretch mode. And this one's really crazy, so wait for it. Hold on.
Oh, it's almost doing granular weird.
So it'll do like real time stretching and all kinds of weird stuff, and yeah, you could just really mangle stuff with it. It's just a wacky weird pedal that does sample rate reduction, bit reduction, and then it does like these all kinds of weird stuff.
I just wanted to show this. I feel like dude from JHS, the way he throws the. So somebody wanted to ask the question, "What's a good analog chorus?" And this is it. Whether or not he said he misses his Juno chorus, this ain't necessarily that.
You know
But
what? I'm gonna put people on to a little secret sauce. Let me see if I can find the pedal real quick. I got it right. Give me a second. It's around here somewhere. I guess like all my pedals are kind of like strewn about right now because why wouldn't they be? Okay. This pedal right here is gonna cause all the uh all the boutique guys to lose their mind and be like, no.
we hate you, Flux.
But if you're a sound design guy, if you're a synth nerd, if you're somebody who likes to do whatever the hell you want and not worry about what other people say, and you like to get a crazy deal, this pedal, little bit noisy, worth it. The vintage pedals were crazy noisy, so I really don't want to hear it when you talk about noise. This thing right here, right, is an analog chorus pedal. It's all analog. And yeah, it is made by, if I recall, what's the crappy version of Fender? Starcaster. It's a Fender Starcaster. So it's like their super budget brand.
Mm-hmm.
You can get these things for like $20. Like no lie, you can get these things used for like $20. A good friend of mine put me onto it, and I got to tell you, it's actually really good. Like it sounds great. It sounds kind of like a vintage chorus pedal. And no, not Stratocaster, Starcaster. Starcaster is like Fender's like Bobo brand version of stuff. It's they can do stuff super cheap, you know. Um,
That's gonna be my new pedal
but
board.
yeah, like they're so cheap that you can get multiple of these in case one breaks or whatever. You throw it at your kid or whatever. Um, but yeah, they sound. Matter of fact, I'll plug it up right now. Why not? Why not? This is America. We can do these sorts of things.
Let's see. What kind of effects does the Peak have in it? The Summit. I'm sure it's got pretty dope effects. Somebody's asking if the Summit would be a dope as a effects processor. I think it would. I just have to remember what kind of effects it has. I think I remember enjoying the reverb and delay in that joint.
Give me a second. Let me see if I have this set up right. I don't know if I have this plug going the right way. Come on. Come on. I'm probably gonna look like a fool because I don't have this thing hooked up right. I think I might need to. Come on.
On board. So,
See if I blow
while
something
you're
up
doing
real
that, to
quick.
address the person that wants to know if so the effects on the Summit are reverb, chorus, delay,
Oh,
post,
America.
EGA. I'm way distracted with the. They're also controlled directly from the front panel. Available modulation targets and the dedicated effects mod matrix. So it's got a reverb, chorus, and delay effects. And I remember being pretty impressed with the peak effects. So I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use it. It should have an input back of it for coming signal to be processed. So yeah, that should work out. I will confirm about the back part inputs though. Let's
I don't
see.
know if I'm gonna be able to use this right now. I don't think I have it set up right because of this power supply. But whatever. I'll have to show it some other time. Anyway, they're not hard to find. You can find them all over the place. But like I said, they're. I mean, it's a solid metal body, but you know, it is a super budget brand pedal. Um, you know, it just. But it's all you know. It's that basic analog, vintage analog chorus circuit. So it's not like anything. There's nothing in it that's fancy. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be fancy.
And it's
Uh,
by Starcaster though.
well, it's called Starcaster is like their sub brand, but
Mm.
yeah, I have to crack it open and see what chips are inside of it. Um, oh, I mean, not do that. I have to crack it open to see what chips are inside of there. I might even do that right now because I'm curious and ridiculous. Plug this thing back in before I forget. I do recommend this Way Huge. I recommend every single one of their pedals. They're all great. I absolutely love Way Huge's pedals. And a lot of them you can open up. Um, you can open them up and there'll be like little dip switches in there and trim pots that you can adjust and make them how you want them. So I'll give you a for instance of how this thing sounds. Ooh, damn.
So Ken, what's funny is that I think if this were a year ago or so, that thing would not be hard to find, but it's not anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, and
Um,
I see them aftermarket for like $50, more than twice the price that they originally were. So they may
I
have been
see.
gone out of
Um,
circulation.
I'm just
Mr. Mofenzeef is a Starcaster.
uh yeah,
What
it
up,
looks
Pete
like about
Rocky?
$40 on eBay. There's one going for $132, so it looks like people are starting to kind of catch on to them. So
Hmm.
maybe they're worth a bit more now.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's how things go sometimes, you know. Yeah, I'm seeing one.
And I wanna call some attention to something that, yo, I'm putting you up on something right now, people out there who asked about some good chorus pedals. This is a good vibrato chorus pedal, and it's kind of geared towards giving you a specific sound reminiscent of vinyl, and it's called warped vinyl.
Oh yeah.
And this is an incredible pedal. It's a vibrato and chorus effect, but because of the way it's put together, it gives you like you can really simulate the idea of like a vinyl effect. It's just a real dope pedal. So if you're looking for a chorus and cool with having a vibrato too, this is like one of the best ones you can get. And I've always liked this MXR. Oh yeah, this MXR analog chorus too. So there's a couple chorus pedals for those that were asking.
Yeah, their stuff is man, it's also dope. Like them, and so like Chase Bliss and who's the other guys I'm thinking of? Empress and man, there's just so
Empress is
many.
real dope. Yep.
There's so many good uh,
Pedal.
small pedal companies now that are just like doing really cool things. Like and not just churning out clone pedals and stuff anymore. So I love that stuff.
Chase Bliss, and so that this is a Chase Bliss pedal. The Warp
Zivix is another one.
Civics is another, and yo, oh, where's
Death
my
by Audio,
who been stealing my
Retro Mechanical Labs.
where my pedals at?
Yeah, lots of really do. Here, I'll play you what this way huge sounds like real quick. And I actually
Red
modified
Panther.
this one.
Red Panther is another.
This one's got CV on it. I modified it so that I can turn CV on and off on it.
That's not. Oh,
Yeah, so it's just
yeah,
a
that's dope.
it's a dope little pedal, man. I love that thing. And their fuzz pedal is actually my favorite fuzz pedal. Period. The Swollen Pickle MK2.
Hmm.
That thing just sounds amazing on drums. Like yeah, like not a lot of fuzz pedals sound great on drums, but that thing, psh, it goes.
You know what I wish I would have kept, yo? The so I reviewed the full suite of Moog. What are they? The
Yeah,
mini.
they had the smaller pedals, the cheaper ones.
Yeah, I don't know if they were not Moogle Fugers, but maybe they were
They
mini
were like
Fugers.
mini Fuggers or something.
Yeah, I had the entire suite for review, and those videos are up on YouTube. And they were offering me industry, deals on them, but at the time I was like, nah, I don't got that anyway. and I sent them back. And that's something that I remember sending back to the company that I regretted later because they sounded great, and I don't think you can
They
find.
had like a overdrive or something that sounded really nice.
They had an overdrive that sounded good, and they had a boost, and they were different pedals.
Yeah.
They really sounded good, and I find myself, especially doing drum design right now, where I wish I had the overdrive pedal and the boost pedal, and that sucks that I don't. And I'm not about to go try to find them aftermarket because they probably cost 6 times as much now. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and that's something that in my synths, I use overdrive a lot when I'm doing that sort of thing. Uh, I'm gonna give a quick for instance, and this is something that we talked about in the private chat, but I got to and it goes back to talking about the waiting times for order and stuff. Man, the ER301 is the god module. Like that is the god module because the other day I did this drum. I set my modular synth. The one off to the right is all drums, and I set it up the way I wanted it. But because of the way I wanted it, there was a lot of distortion and whatnot, and the noise floor was outrageous. So I needed a noise gate, but I didn't want to use a rack noise gate. I want to use something that's in my Euro rack, like in that chain. And I built a noise gate using the ER301, and it took me seriously, it took me like 5 minutes, and I had it fully refined and everything, even quicker than that. So
Wow.
just to give an example of that, I'll show you. So if I bypass it, let's go ahead and bypass this real quick. Can you guys hear that now? The
Oh,
noise floor.
oh,
Can you hear the hiss? The hiss.
yep,
So I'm gonna engage it now.
yep. Drop significantly.
Yeah. So and I made that in that thing like in no time. Like and if I bypass it,
Yeah.
and now I'll turn it back on. And you hear just how much quieter it gets. And like I'm telling you, the ER301 is like Man, that's my right hand dude. I could just do whatever I need in that thing, man. I make everything from delays, sample players, noise gates, compressors, you name it. Make it all inside that one module. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that is a dope module. One day, I think you've done that kind of stuff though, right? Have you done streams dedicated to that module?
I did one and I meant to do more.
What was
But
sequencing what you just played?
two sequencers. The Fluxus one was doing the melody, which is and the drums are over here. See if you can see it. Hold on. See if I can mute it. Hold
That is Big Boy Step Pro, right?
What's that?
The Key Step Pro, or what do they call it?
Yeah, so that's the KeyStep
CD
Pro
Pro
from
Max.
Arturia. That's not out yet, but it's coming along. So
And look at
doing
my
some stuff on it.
look at why not say he actually bought the mini Fuggers because of my videos, and look at me, I don't even have them.
Yeah, yeah, and he's saying you can get that boost for $100. And see, that's the thing is like those pedals are surprisingly for Moog, they're not overpriced.
Yeah, yeah,
You
they
know what I
really,
mean? Like
and that's
most of the stuff that Moog does, I'm always like, oh, I'm always humming and hawing about their stuff.
yeah,
But those things were actually priced really, really aggressively.
yeah, they were. And they were dope. They actually like they were real like it was a real bucket brigade delay, a BBD delay in that joint. Um, and that's one of the things that their bigger Mooga Foogers were kind of known for and were praised for, and they did a small pedal of that. It was pretty amazing.
I'll tell you what,
The
those
chorus was
courses
dope.
are going for good money now, though.
Yeah, the
And the,
Mooga
the
Fooger,
delay is going for absurd money.
yeah, it is. So you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, man. I used to kill that delay. That delay is pretty incredible.
And they have a Boost V2, so I don't know what's different between the V2 and the V1.
Yeah.
Hmm. And they have a
So
tremolo.
that's a good chorus. Another good recommendation for a chorus. Just FYI, there's somebody in the chat asking about it. So
The other stuff would be like the what is it called? The Moleco stuff. There's some cool stuff. They got some cool distortions and whatnot as well.
yeah. So yo, I got another show scheduled on the books for next Saturday and the Saturday after that, so we could get started with this. And actually got some other pretty cool stuff coming up that I'm gonna try to do. I'm actually gonna start doing some one-on-one interviews with a couple of choice like producer or artist kind of dudes. Um, that people that may frequent my Instagram that we've been kind of mutually admiring each other's production for years. I want to kind of talk to some of those dudes like one on one. So probably during this time that we all on lockdown, I'll get a chance to start some of that up and do just short 20 to 30-minute conversations. And then I'll post it in a link to the B-Boy Tech Report website. So look out for that. And like I said, go to beatpeople.com and check out the kits that's up there. The latest kits are layers. And what was the one before that? I can't remember. Redux. And what was before that? Dot matrix. So yeah, check those kits out. Get yourself some good supply. And yo, pro tip: if you follow Beat People on Instagram, that's BeatPPL on Instagram. There is a code up there for a discount on merchandise and sample packs on beatpeople.com. So yeah, go check that out.
I also have that Stillhouse sampler up that's free. So you guys can go check that out if you go to shop.fluxwithit.com. I recently did a sample pack where we went inside of a distillery out in Texas and sampled the actual stills and the barrel house and all kinds of stuff and made some programs and so it's available in wave format and I think machine format. So you can go check that out too. If you're bored at home and you want some new sounds, you can go check that out. And if you want to buy my MPC, you can go buy my MPC right there. So I think it's the cheapest one up on Reverb right now. Go buy that. But
And it still has the little
still
peel
has a screen protector on it, man. So you can go buy that joint. It's up on Reverb. And if you want, if you know me personally or whatever, and you feel comfortable contacting me directly, we can do it that way, and I don't even have to pay the Reverb price. I'm okay with that. Um,
the
uh,
payments still need to go through PayPal though, so you get some protection.
yeah, whatever. I ain't ripping anybody off. Trust me.
Mm-mm.
uh,
Well, they don't rip you off.
oh, I don't know. Yeah, but if
Tell
it's sent,
Shazam, the iPad producer,
I
we
don't
got
know
to
if it's
have you
sent
on the
friends and
show.
family. I don't think that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's true.
You could school me on that later. But regardless, anyway, if anybody wants an MPC, there you go. Yeah. Reverb probably is gonna hunt me down. I actually met those guys. You and I both met the dudes that owned Reverb, and
Reverb.
I
Yep.
guess since have sold it to Etsy. Um, they made bank.
Yeah. You know what's dope about Reverb while we talking about them is that they're based in my beloved hometown of Chicago, and they're starting to get involved with people that are kind of like crewing that have been on the show. And so I like that they're involved. Reverb is actually involved in the beat making and synth community.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's dope
Mm-hmm.
about them. They literally single-handedly made me stop using eBay. You know what I'm
Yeah, for real. I use that pretty much exclusively now. Like I don't really mess with eBay too much. I use Reverb. And I've sold a bunch of stuff on there, and I've bought a bunch of stuff on there, and I actually really enjoy it. I like the idea of not doing. I don't really like auctions to begin with. You know, I'd much rather have it be like set the price that you're comfortable with, and if you want to have an offer, set it, make it available for an offer. But I don't want to deal with auctioning and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It can be a hassle. It can definitely be a hassle. But yo, man, we're gonna call it one. Shazam, you came a minute too late because we're about to be out. But you,
Everybody socially distance and
yeah,
be
all our
mindful of
players
others.
too.
Yeah, like,
Be
just be
safe.
mindful of others and, try to stay safe and make lots of cool music.
And you know what, Ken? Like I said, we got a show scheduled for the next couple of Saturdays, but I'm open if you want to do, one or two of these through the week. I'm gonna try to get like a one-on-one interview or two going with some artists. But if you
Yeah,
want
I'll be around.
to mid-week,
I'll be around. I'm knocking out some pretty important work in the studio that I think people are going to be really excited about when it drops. And I won't talk about what it is, but when it drops, you'll know what it is. So
yeah,
uh, yeah. Once that stuff comes out, man, I think yeah.
cool.
All
All
right,
right, y'all. Peace. Thanks for joining. See y'all later in the week.
that was my Nixon thing.